Josh, as you look around the country, do you have any sleepers that jump out? So let's say Ohio State, Penn State are the players in the Big Ten, with Wisconsin being obviously the big favorite in the West, and Alabama owns the SEC. Clemson, Miami could, along with Virginia Tech, factor in the championship game there. Oklahoma State, TCU. So we'll take out the obvious selections. USC, Washington State, Washington. Is there a sleeper maybe outside the top 15 that you're not necessarily picking to make the college football playoff, but who would be the scariest sleeper for you out there?
So you know who nobody's really talking about right now? It's pretty good, is Notre Dame. And it's amazing to think that Notre Dame's flying under the radar. But this is a team that lost by 1 point to Georgia, who all of a sudden looks like their national championship contender the way they've played the last few weeks. That was a very good Georgia team that went in and barely escaped against Notre Dame. Now the Fighting Irish, now they're a little banged up at quarterback this week, but they play North Carolina. That I wouldn't worry about them losing that game, even if Brandon Wimbush misses the game or isn't full strength. But now they get USC in a couple weeks. That USC game doesn't look all that daunting. They come to South Bend. They have Stanford a little bit later this season. A couple tough games. But also, it's not the same Notre Dame schedule we're used to seeing where it's just a top 20 team almost every week. They get Wake Forest. They get Army and Navy. This is a Notre Dame team that if they can win a couple of those big games, they obviously have the loss on their schedule that's going to hurt them when it comes time to decide who's going to make the playoff. If they win out, I think this Notre Dame team is capable of doing that, and they could make the playoff in that case. They've got a ton of talent. Wimbush has been great at quarterback. Adams has been tremendous at running back. He's a very versatile guy in between the tackles, outside, great speed. Equinemius St. Brown is, the prototypical NFL receiver out there with his size and speed. Offensive line is as good as any in the country. It's crazy to say that Notre Dame is flying under the radar. When do we ever say that? But I do think that this Notre Dame team, all of a sudden after that loss to Georgia, and because Brian Kelly couldn't get out of his own way in the media, it's kind of just put a bad taste in a lot of the media's mouth. But watch the games that they play. They're blowing out every team that they faced other than Georgia. They're winning games by 30 and 40 points. I think this Notre Dame team could get on a roll the second half of the season, and don't be surprised if they sneak their way into the top 10 or even the top 5 by season's end.
If Notre Dame's possibly that good, maybe they take a few people off my back. I gained all sorts of grief preseason, Josh, when I said Notre Dame was going to go to Miami and win late in the season. They were like, "Are you crazy? That team went 4-8 and couldn't stop anyone last year."
A talented team, and they lost. And last year they went 4-8 and lost almost every single game by a touchdown or less. They were 4-8 and they could have been 9-3. So that team was better than their record indicated a year ago, and you're starting to see that normalize itself here halfway through this season.
Yeah, and as you say, it's still a really good schedule. I still think it's a very formidable schedule, but a number of those teams that were supposed to be or had a chance in some people's eyes to be elite, USC, Stanford, are good teams, maybe not great teams.
Right,
Yep.
Exactly.
Josh Parcell, College Football Country. Join him right there. And, of course, subscribe to my YouTube channel right here for the best in college football coverage, talking to guys like Josh, analysts across the country. You can catch the long-form conversations on Stitcher, Podbean, and iTunes. Just search Mark Rogers TV, or the topical segments right here on YouTube. Josh, enjoy the football this weekend. We always appreciate the breakdown.
No doubt about it. Thanks for having me, Mark.